Hey there, true believers. You're tuned in to Baxter Building Radio via the Negative Zone feed, and you are listening to episode 51 of the Fantastic Four Fancast. My name is Nate Charles. I am your host, and as always, I am joined by my co-host. His name is Shane Murray. How you doing tonight, Shane?
I'm doing pretty good, bud.
What have you been up to since our last recording session?
The backlog's been beaten. Even the stuff I bought this week, I only have one book left.
I have one book left as well in my stack, but I've been sitting on it for like 2 weeks, and weirdly enough, it is Planet of the Apes meets Fantastic Four.
You just waiting to read the next one with this one, or did you just not like the last one before this one?
No, it's not that. It's just that things have been busy. As you know, I've picked up a side gig in addition to my job and working on this show. So, yeah, we've got a lot of things going on, or at least I do. Next weekend's Bloomsburg Comic Con as of this recording. We're recording this on May 1st, but Bloomsburg Comic Con's May 9th. So once that's out of the way, maybe I'll get a chance to read some more stuff. But outside of my normal job and my side hustle and this show, stuff has just been hectic.
I did have to drive into New York for a hot minute on Sunday.
New York State or New York City?
New York State.
What was all that about?
Picking my kid up because she stayed over her cousins after a dance recital.
Ah, you could have just left her there.
No. She's got too much responsibility. She's got the gecko and the chickens.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the chickens. Don't know how anybody could forget about the chickens. I'm sure you haven't.
No, haven't. And in between 7 and 8 days, I'll have five more,
Bringing your total to 13?
bringing my total to seven.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I thought you already had like
No,
seven,
I
which
have
means my
two.
math would have still been off. But
I have two.
right. How's that going?
Actually, fine. They're on the porch. They just hang out. They just chill. I'm waiting for it to get a little bit warmer because, well, or once I get the babies, they'll have to go into the hut. I was trying to keep them as warm as possible, but they're getting bigger, and the little pen is not going to be able to keep them for long.
You getting any eggs out of this?
Dude, I'm gonna have so many eggs. They're all egg layers. Like the two that we have here each lay like 200 eggs a year, and then the other ones lay on average like 320 a year. I'm gonna have so many eggs. I'm gonna have to be egg central. Everything I'm gonna do is make eggs. Wake up in the morning, have an egg. Go to work, have eggs.
Well, I'm glad you like eggs. I also like eggs, but if I have too many eggs, I get sick of them. So good luck with that. I hope you don't end up in the same boat.
I have 5 cartons of eggs in my refrigerator right now.
Nice. I didn't realize you were a millionaire.
Here in the middle of nowhere, it is $2 at the grocery
Where
store.
everyone has chickens. Therefore, no one needs to worry about eggs. You don't have to pay very much for them at all.
If I really needed eggs, I could always just go over to Freya's friend, just got another 13 chickens, bringing her total up to 72, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Yep. It's literally like you just live in Chicken Town, Egg
Uh,
City.
yeah.
So, yeah, no wonder they're so cheap. You guys want not for them at all.
Milk's cheap, eggs cheap. All of the normal things that some people have to pay lots of money for are really cheap here. We just have to pay really lots of money for gas because we get the upcharge for being in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, Shane, I was talking a little earlier about how I've been doing some upkeep for the channel, and I am excited to announce that we are finally on YouTube in some capacity. Granted, we don't have a visual component yet to the show, and I'm not sure if we ever will, but we are available now on YouTube. So if anybody has that as their preferred method for listening to podcasts, we're there now.
Yeah, you can throw us on in the background while you're cleaning your house, and you won't stop to stare at us because it's just a static image.
Yeah, and quite frankly, we're doing you a favor by that. You don't want to see Shane. You surely
I
don't
mean,
want to
if your
see
TV
me.
faces a mirror, it's going to crack. So
And just a reminder to everyone that we are still running our contest where if you leave us a five-star review on Apple Podcast, you get entered for a chance to win a copy of both Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross and Fantastic Four Solve Everything by Jonathan Hickman. So if you have not gotten on there and written a five-star review for the show on Apple Podcasts, now's the time because you could get two really great stories for doing so.
Yeah, I can't say much more than really great about those two stories. They are phenomenal.
Yeah. And of course, most of you know that from episode 49, where we did cover the first half of Fantastic Four Full Circle. And we will be covering the second half of that story in the next 2 weeks for episode 53, which will also be the last week to enter that contest. Well, do you need to talk more about eggs?
No, no, I think we've touched all of the eggs.
Well, speaking of laying eggs, I know back when we first covered Walter Simonson's intro issue, which was Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 334, you kind of felt like he and Rich Buckler had laid an egg way
Oh,
back in episode 47. So I'm interested to see how you feel about part two of this story, Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 335, which we're covering today.
just have to wait and see.
All right, so Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 335, was cover dated for December of 1989 and released on September 26th of 1989 with a cover price of $1. Shane, as always, I went on to pricecharting.com prior to our recording today to look up the values of what copies of this book have sold for at maximum. Are you ready to play another round of the Shane Showcase?
I am.
Well, then, come on down, and we'll start you off today with the ungraded value of a direct market copy of this book. How much do you think that is sold for at maximum?
And it's ungraded, you said?
Yes.
Um, $4.
You are under, but on the scale, I would say you're substantially under. So, how about you give it one more guess?
Oh, substantially under.
Maybe
Uh,
not substantially, but
$7.19.
that is still under the actual value, and it's the same value as with volume one, number 334, $9.99 via eBay.
Huh.
How about a graded 9.8 copy?
Um, 39.98.
You're close. $44.
Someone hopefully got their money back for what's $40 usually to send out a comic to get graded.
Well, that was a heritage auction sale. Also have one newsstand value for today, which is the ungraded newsstand copy.
Ooh, $11.
$9.90.
It's so weird when they're cheaper than the direct market.
By a whole 9 cents. It's crazy, right?
Oh, dude, I was going through that Alpha Flight run that I got, and I was like showing Aaron the difference between the direct market and the newsstand versions because I got a pile of newsstands in that run. And I was like, yeah, see this one that doesn't have the barcode is the direct market, and this one with the barcode is the newsstand. And she was like, that's cool. And actually, one issue I bought twice by accident, so I have the direct market and the newsstand of it.
Well, you know what that means, Shane. Now you got to get both copies of all of
No, 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 no.
them. Really round out that Alpha Flight Volume 1 collection.
I did pick up three more issues this week. 124, 125, 126, or it's 125, 126, 127. It's three in a row and it's in the 120s. That's all I can remember.
Was that from our local comic book store?
It was from our local comic book store.
Yeah, well, I we talk about them all the time and we never give them a shout out. So I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out. If you're ever in South Williamsport, Pennsylvania, be sure to stop in and check out Isle of Comics. Tracy and Joe, wonderful people. and they'll get you hooked up with what you're looking for.
Even weird stuff like Alpha Flight.
For sure. All right, Shane, getting back on topic, our creative team for today's issue, we have writer Walter Simonson, penciler Rich Buckler, inker Romeo Tanghall, colorist George Russos, letterer Bill Oakley, editor Ralph Macchio, and editor-in-chief Tom DeFalco. Would you like to hear a synopsis of today's book?
Absolutely. Because I don't think I
Well,
can synopsis this.
couldn't really synopsis the last one either, but you and the true believers are in luck because Marvel Unlimited has us covered. And our synopsis reads: The FF are off to Washington, D.C. The team is called to a hearing in Congress about a potential law for superhuman registration. But will the event be able to finish without supervillains crashing the party?
The world may never know.
It will, though, because we're going to deep dive into this issue. Answers will be had.
Not this issue.
Answers to that question will be had.
Cover?
Well, yeah, today's cover is by Walter Simonson. Shane, would you like to take us through that?
Yeah. So at the top of it, we have the little banner, the little that lets you know that this is a crossover event, I guess. Acts of Vengeance. Then you get the Fantastic Four with the Human Torch flying through the Acts of Vengeance banner and the Fantastic Four. I really like the color, how the green it goes green in the Fantastic when he trails through it. Then you get a nice little word box there.
Which works hand in hand with the logo. So it reads Fantastic Four, alone against the most powerful villains in the universe. And She Thing has something to say about that, which is, you're kidding, right? Which is the same joke they had on the cover of last issue. But please continue to take us through the cover, Shane.
Yeah. Then you have Reed wrapping up. Um, I'm gonna blank on all these guys. I know they're in the issue, but they're random. They are random. These are like F tier rank villains.
Okay, so Reed is wrapping up the eel, the second eel,
And then you have behind Reed Ben carrying
the
Quill.
quill,
What's yeah, Quill. Then you have Sue busting bubbles off of I
Mad
can't
Dog.
even Mad Dog. They're so bad. These villains are so bad. She Thing is smacking Ramrod. Is that Ramrod?
I think that is Ramrod, yes.
And then you have is that
So it
Flying
could
Tie?
also be Plant Man. Have it
Oh, it might be Plant Man. It is Plant Man because it has the okay. So She Thing smacking Plant Man. Then you have Flying Tiger just passed out on the bottom left. On the bottom right, you have what's that? Is that dude? I literally had pulls up
Thunderball of the
Thunderball.
Wrecking Ball. He's probably the closest to an A tier villain you have in this issue, because not only is he part of the Wrecking Crew who went toe to toe with Thor, amongst others, but he was also part of the Secret Wars not too long before this.
And then the bald guy.
Come on, you're an X-Men fan. You should know this. Not Charles Xavier.
I should, but I don't. I'm blanking.
That is the Vanisher who first appeared in X-Men #2 and was also, fun story, played by Brad Pitt in Deadpool 2.
Never seen that movie. So, um,
No kidding.
I'm sure you're real surprised by that.
A little
Uh,
bit.
and then that means the last set of legs going up there behind She Thing is Ramrod,
That is correct. Yes.
or at least that's how we're going to look at it, because I'm pretty sure she's smacking Plant Man.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful corner box with all of their faces. With Ben when he was, what is that like Super Ben or modified Ben when
He was a more mutated version of the thing at that point.
Rocky Head Ben.
I mean, he's Rocky Head Ben most of the time.
Yeah, but this is like, all right,
Craggy. We'll call it Craggy Head Ben.
the Alpine headed Ben.
Whatever you need to say to get yourself through this.
Yeah, it's fine. I adjusted to the fact that he wasn't like my Ben, so it's fine. He still talks like my Ben. He just doesn't look like Ben. I adjusted. It's fine.
Oh, there we go. We're slowly getting there. And so we open up to the first page of our story, where our narration reads, Stand back and give 'em room, boys and girls. It's the story you never thought you'd see, and most likely it never even occurred to you. This is the big one. And we see inside an enclosed cockpit who, Shane?
We have Ben, Johnny, and Reed.
Ben says, We're there, folks. Washington, D.C. in person. Nice flying, Ben. You're not nervous about facing a few congressmen, are you, Reed? Not exactly, Johnny. I'm just remembering some words James Madison once wrote. I believe there are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachments of those in power than by violent and sudden usurpations. I don't suppose he meant Congress specifically, but his sentiment is worth remembering even here. And we see this newer version of the Fantasticar zoom towards the Capitol building. And Sue points out the window and says to Franklin, Look, Franklin, that's the Capitol building where Congress meets. So, I want to see the Smithsonian. That's where the dinosaurs live. Yes, it's the FF versus Congress in.
Death by debate.
And this is a weird, I'm going to say this is kind of a weird panel because you get a caption at the bottom where it says Stanley Presents, which normally you would see, it would say like Stanley Presents the Fantastic Four in at the top of the page, and then you'd have the title, or it would say Stanley Presents, and then you'd have the title. But no, it's like Stanley is presenting the creative team, which we already read off, but they're all listed at the bottom of the page. It's just weird placement.
I just don't think that Stanley wanted to present death by debate. Though the amount that man writes, you would think that he would have read a debate issue.
Oh, I'm sure he has. Hey, we just covered Reed and Ben debating with the fans whose usefulness in Fantastic Four, Volume 1, number 11. That was back in episode 44. And the Fantastic Car rolls up on the DC airport, and the control tower says, Flight 390 light, you are cleared to land, runway 08. Equalizers on, vertical thrusters fired. And the vertical thrusters make a sound, Shane.
Bazoo.
Got a slight roll left, Reed. Corrected. And the Fantastic Car touches down and Reed adjusts his tie, looking back at the rest of the team and says, That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to National Airport, serving the nation's capital. Punk airline, no Pepsi, no peanuts. Ben, maybe we can just slip into Washington quietly. And as the team exits the Fantastic Car, Reed dissuades such a notion. No chance of that, honey. The press is already here. And one reporter with a camera rushes up before all the rest and says, Dr. Richards, Hopkins Post. Is it true, sir, that you refuse to testify and the subcommittee has had to subpoena you in your conference? Hardly, Mr. Hopkins. We're here at the personal invitation of the committee chairman Grant. And what about the stories linking the FF to destructive rampages in New York? As your paper has already reported, those were imposters posing as the Fantastic Four. We have to resolve any resulting problems with the next mayor of the city. Now, if you'll excuse us, we've got a hearing to attend. And the FF exit the terminal, and Ben shouts, Cab! Me and Sherry will grab the next one, Stretch. You guys take off. Us big guys need more shoulder room. And as the FF enters into two separate taxicabs, what happens, Shane?
With a zip, the box that attached to the Fantastic car separates itself from it and looks like it's about to follow them.
And what does this box look like again, Shane?
Oh, it's a box with two the handles that you use to steady yourself in the shower. The quick ones with the suction cups.
And as he climbs into the cab, Johnny says, Man, those reporters don't let go, do they? I thought we got enough press releases out about the clone FF to fill the Grand Canyon. And when did that happen, Shane?
The story was in Fantastic for 328 to 333.
And as the cabs pull away, this mystery box follows them.
Yep.
If they weren't selling stories, Johnny, they wouldn't be making a living. And a villainous FF sells a lot more papers. And the mystery box attaches itself to the back of the cab.
Patek.
Capitol Hill, driver. Yes, sir, Dr. Richards, and welcome to D.C. Though I guess you folks ain't here for fun, huh? Well, some of us are more interested in the dinosaurs than anything else. Hey, the Smithsonian's over that way. Hang in there, Frank. We'll check out the dinosaurs a little later. And in the cab behind those carrying Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Franklin are Ben and Sherry, who says, I can't believe all those reporters. What's the big deal? And the driver passes them back a newspaper and says, You guys got to be kidding. Anywhere the FF goes is news. Ain't you seen the paper? And Ben takes a look at it and says, Well, for the love of Pete, will you look at this? It's disgustapating. Might as well be traveling in a circus with elephants. And what's the headline on that paper read, Shane?
FF to testify before Congress. Extra security precaution anticipated.
Not exactly sure why Ben's upset about that headline, but
Probably because the font's different in both pictures.
ouch. Though not incorrect. And we turn the page to find the FF entering the committee chambers, as a guard says. In here, sir. The committee is expecting you, but they're running a little late, and a couple of witnesses have yet to testify. Thank you. We'll just sit somewhere quietly until our turn comes. But this causes a commotion with the crowd, some of which say, Who? While another says, Hey, look. And we have a panel of four congressmen present, of which I only have names for, I want to say, three of them. I believe the one in the glasses is Pat Mullet, who asks, What's all that racket in the back there? While another one, who I believe is Congressman Paul Grant, says, I think, Pat, that the Fantastic Four have arrived. And the press has also noticed, and there's a number of photographers who stand up and start snapping pictures, and various ones yell, Look this way, Richards. Oh, wow, can I have an autograph? Is it true that your son was really fathered by aliens from Titan and that the Face Voyager 2 photograph there was his dad? Is Sue using Johnny Carson's lawyer for an upcoming divorce? Was the Gambino crime family, in fact, responsible for your clones, as some have claimed? And Congressman Grant has had enough of this in very short order and says, Gentlemen, gentlemen, please. We're behind schedule as it is. If you allow the Fantastic Four to sit, we'll proceed as quickly as possible. And the last congressman that I have a name for, Congressman Martin, says, Seats have been reserved for you and your party, Dr. Richards. Thank you, Congressman. Our apologies for the interruption. Sherry, there aren't any dinosaurs here. Don't be too sure, Franklin. Some of these reporters would be outmatched in a game of wits with a stegosaurus. And Congressman Mullet attempts to regain control of the situation by shouting, Order! Please, order! But one of the Fantastic Four has yet to set down, Shane.
Yeah, Ben is still standing.
And behind Ben, what has followed them into the room.
Oh, the box with the shower holders. And it attached itself to the ceiling. Zap.
And Reed is a little bit consternated with Ben as he says, Ben, take a seat. We've disrupted things enough already. Relax, Stretcho. Just making sure the reporters get my best side. Anyway, this is a fine howdy you do. We're the stars and we gotta sit in the peanut gallery like everyone else. We are like everyone else, Ben. That's the whole point. Okay, okay, I get it. Yeesh. Make one crack and boom. And the unnamed congressman continues with his questioning and says, You were saying, General Nennington. And can you describe General Nennington, who is testifying before this committee to us, Shane?
Yeah, he looks like an older gentleman because he's got a little bit of a receding hairline going on there. Brown hair in his nice military attire, obviously holding his hat because he's inside of a building. Just very stern and looks very cross to be talking to Congress right then and there.
And he says, in summary, Congressman Martin, the Pentagon believes that the men and women of draftable age who show evidence of powers and abilities far beyond those of ordinary people should be required to register those powers with the government when they turn 18 years old, possibly on an expanded draft registration form. Should such powers manifest themselves later in life, for whatever reason, the bearers of such powers should also be required to register. It would be highly advantageous to the military power of the United States, perhaps to the balance of the military power in the world, if the Army understood the precise nature and availability of these extraordinary individuals in times of crisis. And Congressman Martin says, as a way of sorting them out for combat duty, I presume. May I remind the General that in proportion to their percentage of the population, there were more black and Hispanic casualties in Vietnam than any other ethnic group? I'm not in favor of separating out any portion of this nation's population for military duty, whatever the reason. And Congressman Mullet chimes in. It has been my experience, General, that a specific talent or skill known to the Army in advance usually means the individual just winds up on garbage detail that much faster. The men and women of America have served her well in the service, Congressman Mullet. That remark is unworthy of you and them. Maybe it was, General, but I was once in the Army myself. Call the next witness. Will Mr. Hamilton Nathanson step forward, please? And a couple of people have entered the room, Shane. Can you describe them to us?
Yeah, so the couple guys that have entered the room are wearing trench coats and fedoras, and they're strategically placing themselves in different rows.
And the one closest to the front says, move over, mister. What? And shut up. And Sue asks, who's Nathanson? National Rifle Association, says Johnny. They're working on equating superpowers and guns. Figure that what happens to one could establish a precedent for what might happen to the other. And we are taken to the living room of a gentleman who is watching these hearings on his television, as Congressman Millett says. Now, Mr. Hamilton, in regards to your knowledge concerning, but this guy's had enough of this, and he says, boring. I thought C-SPAN was going to pay off for once by showing the FF, but forget this. I want to see something with a little content. And he changes the channel to what, Shane?
He goes to that is what, Wheel of Fortune.
Yes, yes, it is Wheel of Fortune. Meanwhile, back at the hearing, we see Mr. Hamilton Nathanson. And what does he look like?
He has red hair, blue eyes. Looks like he's like middle-aged, wearing a barf colored suit with a blue tie.
I would have called it mustard colored, but yeah, we can go with yours.
It looks like barf.
And Nathanson says, that's correct, Congressman Mullet. I've been a member in good standing of the National Rifle Association for the past 16 years, and proud of it, which is why I'm here today. We believe that the proposed registration is simply the first step on the road to an eventual ban on superpowers, and an attempt to ostracize and ultimately exile these individuals from our society. We believe that a superhero's right to his or her power is protected by the same constitutional guarantees as the right to bear arms. To require superheroes to register would be to hamstring their activities, and in a world awash with supervillains, that would be courting disaster. Remember, Congressman, that if powers are outlawed, then only outlaws will have powers. Brother, never thought I'd see the day I'd be agreeing with the NRA. They do have a consistent point of view, Ben. And Congressman Mullet says, thank you, Mr. Nathanson. And the unnamed congressman says, what about the Avengers? To which Grant turns to him and says, despite their connections to the federal government, we've been unable to contact them concerning these hearings, and the mysterious group known as X Factor seems to simply have vanished off the face of the earth. Now, these are some interesting developments. The whole reason that Congress has been unable to contact the Avengers is, well, the Avengers are currently involved in the whole Acts of Vengeance crossover in their own book, so they're busy. Nice eye roll, by the way.
I got nothing if you're gonna I'm gonna be nice.
And X Factor is actually off world, ironically enough, and they will be from issues 43 to 50 of their own titles, so they're gone for a while. That being said, we now see a sergeant enter the room who says, "Sir?" And another officer replies, "Problem, Sergeant?" "We've got a situation, sir. Radar net's got a bogey coming in a low angle straight towards the Capitol. It's Apocalypse." Shane, who's Apocalypse?
When I read this, I was like, why would Apocalypse show up in this book? But I guess with everything else, all the other wild things that have happened, why not? Apocalypse is a mutant from uh, he's a very, very strong mutant that likes to turn other mutants into his horsemen and try to bring about the apocalypse. That's the easiest way to say it.
He's a mutant. He's not a robot. He has a
He's
big armored suit. What's Apocalypse's whole mantra?
if he didn't have a
It's
heart,
four whole words, Shane. Four whole words is what I'm looking for.
survival of the fittest.
Very much so. And this is still fairly early on in Apocalypse's history as a character, which would explain why Ben has the reaction he has, which is, "Say what?" The renegade mutant who destroyed part of New York City a few months ago. He's zeroing in on Washington. And the sergeant goes to the head of the room and says, "May I have your attention, please? An emergency grade 1 has just been declared. All non essential personnel will vacate these premises immediately. Congressmen and subcommittee staff to the bomb shelters." And Ben leads the charge of the FF out of the room as he says, "Let's go, guys. This is our job." And there are murmurs among the crowd, such as, "It's all the Fantastic Four's fault. If they hadn't come, get that camcorder ready. They're going to make history. Maybe he's coming to testify. Phone. I need to get to a phone." And Congressman Mullet says, "This is just the sort of outrage we have to guard against." And the other congressman says, "How? By registering the FF? We already know where they are. And in a few moments, they'll be putting their lives on the line while we sit here debating policy." And we see Apocalypse zooming in the sky towards the Capitol. Meanwhile, the FF are rushing down the exterior hallways, as Reed says. "We've got to get clear of the crowd and into our work clothes. Use the bathrooms. How come there's never a phone booth around when you need one?" And in the women's room, we see Sue and Reed changing, and Sue asks, "Reed, what do you think?" "I don't know, darling. The reports on Apocalypse indicate that he's extremely powerful and dangerous. I can't imagine why he should be closing in on the city, especially now, and alone. But he'll find the Fantastic Four waiting for..." But suddenly, Reed's train of thought is interrupted by an announcement over the loudspeaker, which is the sergeant saying, "Now hear this. Now hear this. The mutant apocalypse is heading across the Potomac River out towards the Chesapeake Bay and beyond. The danger is past. This is an all clear announcement." And in the men's room, we see Sharon, Ben, and Johnny in mid changing of their clothes into their uniforms. And Johnny lets out a confused, "Huh?" While Ben says, "What a revolting development that is. And me practically down to my skivvies." And Sherry makes a realization and asks, "Hey, where's Franklin?" Uh, still sitting in his seat, I think." "Oh, brother," says Johnny, face palming.
maybe they should leave him with Charles.
You don't leave your kids with Charles Xavier. That was your whole point. But
It is, but at least he knows where they are most of the time. That
eh,
Psylink comes in handy.
yeah, he knew exactly where Franklin was right now. And if you're interested in the last time Franklin Richards stayed with Charles Xavier, check out episode 46 of our show. And the Fantastic Four change back into the civilian clothes and re-enter the hearing chambers. Johnny says, "Sure is quiet in here." And we have a word bubble that looks to be like it's coming from Sue, but considering the text of it, I'm going to say it's coming from Ben, as he says, "They'd be laughing out the other side of their mouths if Apocalypse had decided to come waltzing in the front door." And Congressman Mullet says, "If you're quite ready, Dr. Richards, this committee would like to resume our hearing." "I'm terribly sorry, Congressman. Please accept our apologies." And then we have another panel which shows Ben and Johnny, and this word balloon looks to be coming from Ben, but the text of which is definitely coming from Reed, who says, "Believe me, sir, when I say we will certainly do nothing to further interrupt these proceedings." And Congressman Grant says, "Yes, well, I don't suppose you can be blamed for Apocalypse. But there are times, Dr. Richards, when I feel all you costume villains and vigilantes seem to be working hand in glove." And suddenly, what do we see, Shane?
The box starts to put off some energy with the sprixt.
And Congressman Grant continues, "However, I suppose in the interest of drone, we can drone. And one of the fedora trench coat wearing people says, "This is it. Yeah, this is it." And he stands up and ditches his coat and jacket and says, "Okay, Richards, it's time somebody took the FF down a peg, and that somebody's gonna be me." And one of the audience members goes, "Who?" "Ramrod's the name, mister. Don't wear it out." And can you describe Ramrod to us, Shane?
Sure, he's got like this full body suit, well, almost a full body suit because it's like got a V down to his belt that has like strings holding it together. One side, well, that's the thing. It's an all green bodysuit. I was gonna say one side's gray, but that's just the shadow in that picture. And he has a shiny metal like cap on top of his head.
And Congressman Mullet shouts, "Security! Guards! Help! Calling for help ain't gonna help you none, Four Eyes. I'm calling the tune now, and it's whoops! Tripped!"
Clunk,
And Ramrod careens towards the floor head first.
bwang.
And Ben kneels down to check on him and says, "Well, what do you know? Big bad Ramrod brained himself. He's out cold. Sheesh, what's going on? I thought we left the crazies back in the Big Apple." And when did they last encounter these attacks, Shane?
Last issue.
And for more on that, go back and listen to episode 47. They keep coming out of the woodwork. Here's another bozo we ain't never even fought. May not be entirely random, Ben. I think I'm beginning to see a pattern. And the security guards walk up with their pistols drawn on Ramrod, and Ben says, "You can relax, boys. Bunky here will be out till Christmas." One of the guards says, "Cuff him, Rodney." And the unnamed congressman says, "Dr. Richards, I must protest this outrage." "Surely, Congressman, you don't presume we had anything to do with the attack. Our familiarity with Ramrod is limited to the occasional news item." And back on the gentleman's television, who was initially watching these proceedings and has switched over to Wheel of Fortune, we get a news bulletin interruption. "We interrupt this program to bring you a special bulletin. This is Diego Ramirez for Channel 4 News. We just had a report of an attempted assassination of the Fantastic Four during their appearance before a congressional subcommittee. Details are sketchy, but a hitherto little-known supervillain known as either Ramjet or Ramrod appears to be implicated in the attack. We'll return in 15 minutes with a live update from the Capitol. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. With designer Izod boxing trunks. And that's only the beginning, Peg. You've also won this trip for four to the Falkland Islands. Yes, you and your friends will be able to." And the gentleman turns his television back to C-SPAN, where he sees these guards escorting Ramrod from the room, and he says to himself, "What a jerk. Any lame brain could have figured out that one 3 vows ago. Let's see what's happening over on C-SPAN. Maybe they..." And one of the security guards says, "Geez, this guy weighs a ton." And the gentleman watching remarks, "Wow, they must have caught the action. Hot dog." And his wife wanders into the room and says, "Fred? Miriam, come here a second. Check this out. Some jerk just tried to off the FF. Maybe it'll happen again." And we go back to the subcommittee, and Congressman Martin says, "Will Mr. Henry Peter Gyrick step forward, please?" And Fred says, "Ah, spit. I was hoping the FF would be next." "Wait, Fred, I want to see a little bit of this." And back in the congressional chambers, we see Henry Peter Gyrick. Can you describe him for us, Shane?
Yeah, he's got red hair. He's got a pinstripe suit. Also, like mustardy brown, not quite as throw-uppy as the other one. Wearing a black button up underneath that, it looks like, and he's got some glasses. Just a general distaste in his face, just an angry man.
Gyrick has been previously known for being the government liaison to the Avengers and harassing the X-Men. And the unnamed congressman says, "Mr. Gyrick, you are a member of the Commission on Superhuman Activities, are you not?" "I am, sir." "You argued strongly in favor of the registration of mutants?" "I did, sir, but let us be clear about this. Registering superpowered beings is not the same thing as registering mutants. It can be reasonably argued that mutants, such as the X-Men, may not be human, at least not in the sense that they are Homo sapiens like the rest of us. Superpowered individuals, or as we call them, superhumans, are another matter altogether. I am a conservative, Congressman Grant. I believe that the more government is kept out of the lives of the individual, the better. Ordinary superhumans are, primarily, human and therefore entitled to the equal protection of the law. However, while superhumans constitute only a small percentage of the country's population, their collective power is almost unimaginable. Hence, the need for their registration, and if necessary, a limitation. We must consider the greatest good for the greatest number. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. This guy's seen Star Trek 2 too many times, if you ask me. Who is he, anyway? Don't you remember, Ben? He ran the Avengers for a while, and just about into the ground, as I remember. He was part of Project Wide Awake dealing with mutants, and now he's got a seat on the commission. A first rate paranoid, if you ask me. And Congressman Martin says, "Do you think, Mr. Gyrick, that a law restricting a limited segment of the nation's population would be constitutional?" "The draft requires men, but not women, to register with the government, Congressman. It has not been declared unconstitutional on the grounds of sexual discrimination. Government does what it must. The problem of superhumans was not one the framers of the Constitution could possibly have foreseen. Using draft registration as a guide, it would be easy enough to implement a superhuman registration that would stand the Supreme Court test." "And how, Mr. Gyrick, would you propose to register the criminal element among superhumans?" "There would be no problem, sir. Without a doubt, various superhuman individuals and groups of an altruistic nature could be persuaded to aid the government in tracking down and registering any individuals or groups who refuse to cooperate. I myself once commanded the Avengers and could do so again in time of need." And Congressman Grant leads in to the ear of the unnamed congressman and says, "Sounds like Mr. Gyrick is proposing that he be put in charge of superhumans." And the unnamed congressman says, "We're thinking, Mr. Gyrick, that superhumans should perhaps be required to adhere to the same constitutional guarantees the police must follow. Search warrants, reasonable cause, and so on." To which Gyrick smirks. "Congressman, if you insist on tying the hands of law enforcement agencies or their adjuncts, you will greatly aid the criminal element already rampant in this country. I would suggest the committee create a Bureau of Superhuman Affairs under the management of a human czar. I submit that this is a time of need." And Gyrick rises from his seat and begins to leave the room, which I find odd, Shane, because I think he would have to wait to be dismissed, right?
Yeah, he would technically have to wait to be dismissed. That'd be contempt.
And Ben whispers, "If he gets to be the czar, I want to be Lenin." And the unnamed congressman says, "The committee calls the Fantastic Four to come forward to the table, please." "It's showtime." And Congressman Grant says, Dr. Richards, I fail to recognize the gentleman with you at the far end of the table. That's Ben Grimm, the original thing, sir. He has reverted to his human form. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you and your colleagues for taking the time to appear before us. I hope you won't think us unappreciative despite the earlier disturbances. Not at all, Congressman Grant. Fantastic Four have always had the utmost respect for the law, and our career has been based on the need to defend the cause of justice. And suddenly, the box attached to the ceiling makes a sound, Shane.
Sprixt.
And what happens?
This time, two of our assailants that were wearing the trench coat and fedoras drop their guys and go to attack the Fantastic Four.
And can you describe both of these gentlemen to us?
Sure, we have one who is the Quill, who is literally covered in quills. And then we have Plant Man, who is in a green full bodysuit and like has little leaves attached to like different parts of his suit. So it's like leaves that come out as like eye things off of his mask, and his belt buckle is like a sunflower. It's a very interesting design.
And they say,
Forget
Forget
that,
that,
Richards.
Richards. It's
It's
time
time
someone
someone
destroyed the
destroyed the
Fantastic
Fantastic
Four.
Four.
And
And
that
that
someone's
someone's
me.
me.
And one of the onlookers goes, Oh my goodness. And another guard says, Holy. And the two come rushing towards the front of the room. My turbocharged vines will crush the life from your bodies. When I get done with you, you'll look like pincushions.
So
So
here's
here's
where
where
you
you
and
and your,
your,
huh?
huh? You
Idiot.
nincompoop,
Watch where
why
you're.
don't you?
And what happened, Shane?
They collide with a giant slam headfirst into each other.
And one of Plant Man's vines wraps around Bill's neck.
It's choking me. Get it off. Get it off.
While quills, for lack of a better term, have embedded themselves into Plant Man. Ow, 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 ow. And the security guards run up, one of which says, Grab him. And another one says, You grab him. He's pricklier than a porcupine. Get some blankets. We'll wrap him up. Ow, 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 ow. And Congressman Mullet leans forward to his microphone and says, Who are these people? I believe, sir, that one
Ow,
of them is
ow,
Plant
ow,
Man and the
ow,
other is the
ow.
Quill. Neither of whom you've ever met before? I'm afraid not, Congressman. Our challenges are usually somewhat more cosmic. But you know who they are. We try to keep up. Are you sure you're not doing something to provoke these attacks, Dr. Richards? It was perfectly quiet in here until you and your team arrived. I can assure you, Congressman Mullet, that neither I nor any of the members of the Fantastic Four are in any way responsible. And Congressman Martin leans in and says, Oh, forget it, Pat. Let's get down to business. Dr. Richards, we're inquiring into the possibility of establishing a federal regulatory apparatus regarding the superhuman activity. So we've understood, sir. I'd like to offer a few introductory comments, if I may, by way of establishing some common ground. Unlike mutant abilities, which are apparently genetic in origin, superhuman abilities are generally acquired accidentally, creating, as it were, freak individuals in an ordinary human community. We ourselves are prime examples of such an origin. And Congressman Mullet says, You realize, Dr. Richards, that the committee will need to see documentation of these allegations. In view of the recent spurious FF in New York, wouldn't it be wise to license superheroes as card-carrying federal agents? And how useful are superheroes anyway? I have prepared a rather extensive report on precisely such matters, Congressman Mullet. Guard, if you would please ask the gentleman outside to come in. And the guard opens the door, and what do we see, Shane?
We see several more guards carrying giant stacks of paperwork.
Stacks so giant that one of the reporters in the audience goes, Ye gods! And these guards come in and start laying these out in front of the Fantastic Four. Reed says, Good. Now, if you'd kindly give each congressman his copy of the report as well. And the unnamed congressman says, This this report is enormous, Dr. Richards. Yes, it is, Congressman Martin. The FF have had a long career, but I felt it necessary to forestall any doubts about the usefulness of superheroes immediately. Time passes. And then in October of the same year, we prevented the Mole Man from deploying a series of sight-destroying ray projectors around the country. Appendix 89, FF, contains the relevant details. Now that's actually a neat reference, Shane, because even though we don't get an editor's note here, this is actually referencing a confrontation from Fantastic Four, Volume 1, numbers 88 and 89. So they literally have the issue number listed right there in Reed's comment.
I thought it was that. I didn't even look it up, but I thought that was what it was because I know it seems like anyway, it's like every 10 issues they deal with Mole Man.
Congressman Martin has had enough of this, and he says, If the honorable congressman from Michigan has no further doubts regarding the FF's usefulness, I think we can forego the rest of the report. I have a few questions I'd like to ask the other members of the team. And we move on to the various members of the Fantastic Four answering these questions as Sue says, Yes, sir, we do have a son, Franklin, and speaking as his mother, I'm worried about any law that's going to create yet another file on him in some nameless computer in Washington. I want my son to grow up knowing what freedom in the United States is supposed to mean, not what it would have meant if he hadn't been special. And Johnny's answer is, I'd sign up if I had to, sir. We're pretty much public figures, and it won't make much difference. But personally, I'd like to watch when you decide to register Dr. Doom or Annihilus. From a distance, preferably. And then we get to Ben, who says, Heck, crooks can go out and buy assault rifles to try to blow us away without batting an eye. Maybe the next time some super skunk decides to open fire, you'd like us to sit around on our duffs checking our ID cards to see if we can spit in his eye or not. But what happens, Shane, as Ben says this?
The good old box spritzed some more energy out.
And as we turn the page, what do we see?
We see, what is this? His flying tiger drop his disguise also.
Right in front of a security guard who says, Oh no, not again. And Flying Tiger says, Heads up! Somebody's got to nail the FF to the wall, and Brown Eyes here is just the Joker who can do it. Clear out of the way, Turkey. I'm coming through. But what happens to Mr. Flying Tiger, Shane?
He runs headfirst into the hand of She-Thing with a plunked.
And the unnamed congressman says, It's Miss Thing. That She-Thing, Congressman. I thought I'd better stand up. But Congressman Mullet makes an observation here. Dr. Richards, you didn't move to intercept that maniac. We was too busy checking our IDs, Your Honor. But Reed says, Hush, Ben. Has anyone else here noticed that every time one of these guys jumps up, he's wearing sunglasses and a trench coat? And that there are still 4 guys in sunglasses and trench coats in the back of the room? And once Sherry says this, what do we see, Shane?
We see 3 more guys disrobe from their disguise and go to take down the Fantastic Four.
Who specifically?
So one all the way in the back is Thunderball, and he is dressed in a green suit with a yellow mask and yellow gloves, and well, you don't see the rest of it, but he's holding onto a thing that has a ball attached to it. Then we have Mad Dog in the front, and he's got like an orange and black suit with the weird face design on it. Then we have the eel, and he's wearing a blue and pink suit. And it's a full bodysuit, covers his whole body, even his face.
And all 3 of them say at the same time,
That tears it. It's time for someone to destroy the FF, and that someone's me.
It's the Vanisher, Thunderball, the Eel, and I don't even recognize the one in the back. Reed, if we have to fight these guys, we're liable to kill them. And Thunderball says, Don't worry your pretty little head, sweetheart. I took on Hercules in a fair fight and came up aces. And he swings his wrecking ball around over his head. And Mad Dog says, Hey, watch what you're doing with that thing. Whoa! As it collides with him with a
Bonk.
And She Thing comes charging towards him and says, "How? By stacking the deck?" And the eel attempts to zap Reed, who stretches out of the way.
Flick zapped.
"Johnny, watch out! The eel's carrying some sort of electrical shock generator." And Johnny tackles him from behind and says, "I can't use my flames, Reed. Might hurt somebody in these close quarters."
Then you're out of luck, Torch. Here's where you get fried.
Splat.
Oh! Reed thinks, got to move fast. "Officers, where's the nearest fire hose?" "Behind the door, Richards. Hurry!" And She Thing connects with Thunderball's face.
Crash.
And Mad Dog picks himself off the floor and goes after Thunderball for hitting him with his wrecking ball.
Brain me, will ya? I'll rip your ears off.
"For Pete's sake, get this Mad Dog off of me." And Reed stretches into frame with a fire hose and says, "Thunderball's occupied for a moment, which should give me a chance to put out the fire. Heads down, everyone." And he unleashes a stream of water from the fire hose at the eel.
Splash. Zacked.
And She Thing grabs Mad Dog by the waist and pulls him off Thunderball. "Okay, laughing boy, party's over."
I'll kill him. I'll kill him.
And an officer levels his gun at Thunderball and says, "Don't move, pal. You're covered 8 ways from Sunday." But Reed takes a look around and asks, "Where's the Vanisher?" "No, don't tell me." And Sherry looks at Mad Dog and says, "And we still don't even know who this guy is." And from the crowd, someone asks, "Is it finished?" And another one says, "Well, except for 5 docudramas this time next year on the tube, that's all she wrote." And Congressman Mullet stands up and goes, "This is most irregular." And the unnamed congressman says, "So were the Fantastic Four, Pat. Anybody hurt?" And the box does something, Shane.
Yep, the box makes a screaction.
And it's loud enough for Sue to notice it as she looks up at it. Meanwhile, one of the security guards next to her begins to suffer what looks like a dizzy spell, and then draws his gun up and says, It's it's time for someone to destroy the FF. And that someone shall be me." And he levels the gun at Reed's back. And Ben sees this and says,
You've got to be kidding. Reed, hit the dirt.
and he tackles the officer, who drops his gun, and he says,
What in blazes is going on? Who's this guy? Submariner in disguise?
and Congressman Grant says, "I don't believe it. Spaulding's one of our best men."
You mean he's just a real Joe?
And Spaulding begins to regain his senses, and he says, uh, what's happening?" And Sue points towards the box attached to the ceiling and says, "Reed, look there. I think that thing's responsible somehow." One of the audience members goes, "Look out. It's still sparking." "We can fix that right now." And Johnny goes to blast it with a burst of flame.
Whoosh.
But the box jumps out of the way. "No, Johnny, wait." "It moved." "Your blast knocked it loose, Johnny. Now I've got it," says Reed as he stretches up and snatches it out of the air. But Sherry's right. We don't want to destroy it. We need to examine it to see if we can trace its maker. There, I've shut it off.
Snapped.
But what is it, Reed? "Some sort of mental controller. Probably an aggression enhancer." "My guess exactly, Sherry." The unnamed congressman stands up and goes, "But to what end, Dr. Richards? And what about Sergeant Spaulding?" "I suspect the sergeant probably intercepted one of the mechanism's transmissions meant for somebody else. If the villains we've seen already were of a more serious variety, I should say someone's trying to kill us. It almost seems like it's some sort of practical joke." "It's the Fantastic Four who are joking. Only a genius could have invented such a fiendish device," comes a voice from the back of the room, and Ben swivels around and says, "Huh?" And describe the gentleman that we see, Shane.
We see a gentleman with a goatee and black hair and a black suit with a red tie.
He points accusingly at the Fantastic Four and says, "Before the FF arrived, nothing had disrupted these hearings." And Mullet says, "Congressman Patera, what? This whole charade has been engineered to convince Congress of the value of superheroes, the very ones who would be forced to register if the law were enacted. But the FF could beat the stumble bums we've seen here with their eyes closed. This whole scenario has obviously been engineered, and Reed Richards, genius leader of the FF, is obviously its architect." And at the bottom of the page, our narration reads, "More villains, more heroes, more madness. The FF fight the deadliest bad guys in the Marvel Universe. Don't believe us? How about some of the deadliest bad guys? A few deadliest? One or two? Well, we're gonna sneak the super adaptoid in when you're not looking. And Ben does stub his toe. Next month, Dark Congress." All right, Shane, it's the moment we've all been waiting for. What do you think of this issue?
Is it? Is it the moment we've all been waiting for?
Well, it's the
Um,
moment personally I have been waiting for since our last debate in episode 47.
all right. So I think that this went better than part one. I told you I was going to go much more easy on this issue because you said you're not going to be open-minded, and I was really open-minded. Anyway, so my notes here say better than part one, but still oof. And my biggest part of this isn't so much the story because I'm just going to get over the fact that this is what I have to deal with for like three things. I literally have looking forward to ending this saga and see what lies next for this variation of the Fantastic Four from Simonson.
That's fair. I'm gonna jump in and say when we started this, I know I defended it as an issue in transition, and really, it's a three-issue story arc, so it's kind of the whole thing is going to be a transition. But the Fantastic Four going and testifying in front of Congress is not necessarily the story I would expect, from Simonson's run in general, let alone starting with it, right?
Yeah.
So, it's definitely something that's off kilter. So as I read through the second part and thinking back to our conversations, I will say that I began to empathize a little bit more with your point of view. Not to say that I disliked the issue, but just that it's definitely what I wasn't expecting from a Fantastic Four book, and therefore could go, well, I can see Shane's point of view a little bit with how this got started. For me, it is a very wordy issue. Like we think Stan Lee gets really wordy. We think that John Byrne can be wordy. They've got nothing on Walt right now in these first two issues, if I'm being real.
There's a lot of words in this book. There's a lot of words.
Well, that all being said, then, why don't we go ahead and move on to our Fantastic Four of the week? Shane, you actually go first this time. What was your fantastic frame for this issue?
So I went back and forth for a while and I ended up settling on page 22, panel 4, where Ben dives right at the policeman, even though he's not Thing Ben. He doesn't care. He puts himself in harm's way before he lets Reed get shot.
Okay. I really like the sense of motion in that panel. And also, Rich Buckler, just drawing Ben as a normal guy in action. Like, this is very, Rich Buckler has a very classic style, I would consider, in comics. Like, this reminds me of something you'd see in, like, an action newspaper strip.
Yeah. That'll go to my second part of this. I really like his work. His art's pretty.
Yeah.
Wait till part two of FF for me to go further into this. And then what's yours, bud?
So, my fantastic frame for this issue, I ended up going with something that actually resonated a bit more personally for me. So that was page 9, panel 4. And it is literally Ben and Johnny and Sharon changing clothes in the restroom. Because as a cosplayer, I really relate to having to change clothes in a restroom. And doing so in a public restroom is one of my least favorite things to do. It always seems like you end up late for something while you're doing so, or while you're changing, the whole reason why you're changing clothes doesn't end up mattering, which is exactly what happened in this issue. Just yeah, it's a pain in the butt, and it's fun to kind of see the FF put into that situation.
All right.
I found that
Well,
more than humorous.
that is humorous. There's a couple humorous ones. The my runner up was the one where She Thing is talking to Franklin when they first get there, and he's like, "I want to see the dinosaurs." And she's like, "Some of these guys would have put up a great argument with a dinosaur," and I almost died.
Like he's got the characterization down, obviously. I think just the story is what's not necessarily resonating, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you get to lead off with your Grim Grumble for the week, buddy.
Yeah, okay. So again, this is just a minor gripe for me, but I'm gonna go with page three, panels 7 and 8. Because I don't and this might be on me because I just don't understand why Ben is offended by the fact that the FF testifying before Congress made the headline. Like they're famous and they're testifying before Congress. I don't get why he doesn't think this should be news. Also, like I get Ben's like an everyman. What is this disgustipating word that he's using here? I don't necessarily
I've
see
never
why
heard
he's
that
doing
word.
that.
I've never
Yeah.
even heard that word before.
Yeah, if anything, I just I don't necessarily like Ben being treated as stupid. It's sometimes, and I get Ben's a character that kind of, I feel like he plays dumb to add levity in situations as part of his characterization. But the past two issues, I will say, I felt like that Ben has been portrayed as unintelligent. Whether that was the intention or not, I can't say. It's something that, I would have to discuss with people involved with making the issue. But yeah, I don't know. Just threw me off for a little reason.
Yeah, they do have a weird characterization for human Ben. Minus the fact that he jumped in front of that thing, because that was the only thing that saved it. Because I have been mad about the way they've treated Ben in these first two issues.
What was your grim grumbling, sir?
Oh, mine is the coloring of this book. Because it's all over the place. There is some panels where it looks fantastic. So, like page four, panel four, that headshot of the congressman there, beautiful thing. That's like people would pay to have that. With if you take the word bubbles away, they would pay to have a if they wanted like a sketch image of themselves, maybe a comic. I don't know. People get weird stuff. Like that's a beautifully rendered picture of a person, great shadowing, everything. And then it gets wild. Like page seven, panels one through three, the shadowing just isn't consistent. And I get that he's turning his head, but it's not consistent anywhere in there. And when they enter the room, when they first enter Congress, the floor with like just the white and the brown and just stripes, there's so much extra nonsense going on with the coloring that I just don't know why. One of the biggest ones that bothered me, on top of those ones, was the Fantastic Car being orange, purple, and blue.
That also bothered me. I will not lie. I was thinking it might just be because they're flying into like it's the early morning and it's reflecting off of it. And I think that's what we're coming down to is it's a lot of reflection stuff. But sometimes it's better to infer that stuff than to just outright show it. And I'm a big fan of showing as opposed to telling when it comes to things like dialogue and pictures, but there's just something with artwork that every once in a while less is more, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I had a really hard time with this book. I actually got through the story pretty well, but like I kept going through and I would stop and I'd just be looking at the pages and I'm like, these are some beautiful lines and the inking's good. I'm like, but the coloring, like, just come down a level. Like, you don't need to go so hardcore, my guy. Like that one close up. Perfect. Go ahead. But on the rest of them, maybe we didn't need to do it so much. Because on other interviewers, he doesn't do it as hard. So, like, I don't know if there was like, if it got to the bullpen, like this wasn't going to be finished and someone had to quick finish it at the Marvel studio. I don't know. I would have, again, like you said, ask somebody on the thing. But there is like a vast difference in coloring from page to panel to panel. Like, some is beautiful and some is like, what was going on here?
Yeah, as far as I know, George Russos was the only colorist on this book. And I mean, he was an institution at Marvel as far as coloring was concerned. But, we all have our off days. This was definitely later in his career. But yeah, no, I see where you're coming from on this issue.
I'm not saying that you can have great things, but I'm saying this specific book
Yeah.
colored poorly.
What about your cosmic cliffhanger? What left you in suspense this issue?
Oh, it obviously was the last panel of the book because it means I'm going to get to the final conclusion of this and move forward with the story.
We're gonna get through this opening arc and we're gonna take a break for a hot second. We will
The
come
only
back to it, but
I was hoping that if it was, well, if they laid out the pages so that the gunshot thing was the panel before, like the last panel, and then Ben saving him, if they would have moved that, it would have been that. But otherwise, yeah.
by the rules we have set for ourselves, you.
Yeah. What about yourself, bud?
So I'm gonna go with page 8, panel 6, and that is Apocalypse flying towards Washington. Now you want to talk about a threat that is worthy of the Fantastic Four? Apocalypse is that kind of threat. And when I first read through this, it was really like, oh man, what's that confrontation going to be like? Guess we will never find out. But no, it was literally something where I was like, oh man, Apocalypse is coming in. Like, I was real excited. And not gonna lie, I was kind of let down. Yeah, granted, it was treated for a gag and it did set up my fantastic frame for the issue, but still, would have loved to have seen that confrontation, would have definitely livened things up. But I will say, this issue is very much like watching C-SPAN. He got the vibe down. Simonson got the vibe down for sure.
This. I can't wait till we get to Simonson's like other stuff. I cannot, from reading like this Thor run and stuff, there's no way that this is all nonsense that he had to write. He got told he had to write this.
Yeah, he this is company-wide crossovers. I will say at least to me, I get the gag. Like the gag is like Reese said, it's a practical joke, but the fact that it's just all of the it's supposed to be villains that you don't normally fight. That's the whole crux of Acts of Vengeance. This is probably the most hilarious way to do it. And I like I said, I would love to get an opportunity to ask Walter Simonson this himself. But like, was this a crossover that he just didn't want to do? So he figured out, like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to, I'm supposed to use villains that the Fantastic Four wouldn't normally fight. I'll give them to you. Like, when I look at it that way, it makes it so much easier to digest.
Look, I have a much more positive outlook on this, and that's as best I can do. I'm never going to look at this in a positive light. I'm going to get through it, and I am going to be like, okay, it was a thing that happened. Let's move on.
Fair enough.
Oh, we still have one left, buddy, and you're first for this. Who is your MFP for this issue?
My most fantastic player for this issue, I had two, but I'll give the one an honorable mention at the end. But the one that I picked for most fantastic player was Reed. Personally, my favorite thing that he does is that he exhausts the congressional committee with an overly long report. I love that he literally brings them in a stack of like 15 phone books and makes them sit there while he reads it. I think that's amazing. But also, he saves Johnny's life by shorting out the eel with the fire hose, and he manages to nab that dislodged aggression enhancer and figure out its function. So that's why I picked Reed. However, I do think it is important to give at least an honorable mention to Franklin because that kid just wants to see the dinosaurs. He's being forced to sit through a congressional subcommittee hearing, and he stays in his seat when all the chaos breaks loose. So good for him. Best boy.
That Game Boy's getting a lot of use.
Yep, for sure.
Uh, that's a good one. I didn't even think about Franklin, but Franklin, dude, I have so many times where I ask, where is Franklin in this book? Because like they all go up front, and I'm like, so you guys left Franklin with the rest of the crowd of the randos behind you that you can't see in DC, where
I
you guys have
think
already been attacked 3 times?
I think the implication is that Sherry is there to watch Franklin, and like when they go up front, because the congressman seemed legitimately surprised when she shows up and clocks
Flying
not
Tiger.
yeah, Flying Tiger. Thank you. So she clocks Flying Tiger. The congressman seemed generally surprised that she was there because I think what she was doing was sitting with Franklin when that happened initially. After that, it gets fuzzy. But yeah, no. That might be something we need to add to this podcast, which is the segment called Where's Franklin? But
Where's Reed and Sue's kids in this issue?
let me tell you,
Um,
recent writers haven't had that problem, but
no, they have not.
how about you,
Uh,
Shane? Who was your MFP for the issue?
I went with Ben because he saved Reed, which meant that the congressional hearing can end at the end of the next issue. Because if Reed's not saved, there's no way they're talking their way out of this. And the Civil War starting 20 years earlier.
I'm just telling you right now, he doesn't say Freed. The congressional hearing is ending right then and there. So maybe you should rethink your choice. You could have gotten out of this story an issue early.
I went Ben for saving Reed's life because Reed seems to be the only way out.
All right, true believers. Well, if you guys would like to read this story for yourself, you can find it in the Acts of Vengeance crossover omnibus from August of 2011. Also, it's printed in the Fantastic Four Epic Collection Volume 20 Into the Time Stream, which was first published in July of 2014, and the Acts of Vengeance Marvel Universe trade paperback from September of 2020. You can also find it on Marvel Unlimited or in the back issue bin of your local comic book store. All right, Shane, what are we hitting up next week?
Um, I wrote down things. Uh, I didn't write down enough. What are we doing next week?
So next week we will be returning to the swingin' 1960s with Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 13 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Just a reminder, true believers, that your feedback is important to us. We would highly appreciate it, again, if you left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. And remember, we are currently running that contest for the next 2 weeks, where if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, you will be entered to win a copy of Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross, as well as a copy of Fantastic Four Solve Everything by Jonathan Hickman. You can also leave a comment or review on Spotify. That being said, that does not enter you into the contest. It is specifically an Apple Podcast 5-star review. You can also subscribe to us on your preferred listening platform, be that Apple, Spotify, YouTube now, Amazon, or on Amazon. You can subscribe to us on there. If you haven't, why not? You're already listening to us. It'll just make sure that we show up in your feed each and every week.
Yep, you can actually ask your Alexa to play the Fantastic Four fan cast, and it'll play.
Yeah. Make Alexa earn her keep. She's not doing enough. We're also on Facebook at the Fantastic Four Fancast, where we encourage you to engage in FF-related discussions and share Fantastic Four content. We are encroaching on 700 members in that group, and last episode we did the top 10 alternate members of the Fantastic Four for episode 50. We will be doing more episodes like that are based around polls in the Facebook group. So go ahead and join us over there and make your voice heard. You can also follow us on Instagram at Fan4Fancast. That is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST. And finally, you can contact us by email with any feedback or suggestions at fan4fancast@gmail.com. Again, that is FAN, the number 4, FANCAST @gmail.com. Shane, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave the true believers with this week?
This is a three-part series that we have to read. You don't have to read it. We're doing it for you. I usually tell you to go look at the book because the art does just justice. The lines are really pretty in this book. If you can find it in black and white, like in essentials, read it in that. If it
It's
didn't come
not.
out
I
in,
already covered that it is not an essential format.
that's the worst. Then I got nothing for you.
We have our own opinions. Yours might vary. Try the book for yourself. I will take up Shane's normal speech since he's not going to.
I'm usually really
We
positive right here. This is really hard.
okay, all right, that's fine. Again, it may not be what you're expecting from the beginning of a Fantastic Four run, especially one that was written by Walter Simonson, but I don't know. I find merit in it. Shane does not. It's fine. We have differing opinions. Yours may even differ from ours. So I will advocate for you reading the book.
Or maybe
Um,
you're a big fantasy space.
yeah, or maybe you're a big fan of C-SPAN. You know how much politics shows up in my YouTube. Maybe I'm just desensitized to it at this point.
I don't know. None shows up in mine.
It's good. Well, we will be getting into some politics of the times next week with Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 13. So I hope you're ready to saddle up for that, my friend. But I can't wait to talk about it with you. Thanks again for joining me this week and chatting up the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, it's always a fun time, even when we're doing weird C-SPAN issues.
For Shane Murray, I'm Nate Charles. We hope you will come out as well, true believers, and join us again next week. And until then, stay fantastic.